Oh, now this is new. This is new because there's no Tascam on top of here. No extra audio. This is trusting the sound handling capability of the Sony on its own. And I haven't done that before, and I've got a bit tired of what the preamp inside the Sony was doing to the output from the Tascam. So I've decided to ditch it unless I'm filming outside, in which case I'll use the GoPro and the Tascam with its windsock. But in here I'm just going to use the Sony with its onboard microphones, these little things here and here. Okay, it's been raining, it's a Saturday, and this afternoon had the Kirsty came over from not too far away actually, just down the road in Cornwall, and she brought up this what do they call this thing? The Modern Player Telecaster, which you've seen me work on one of these before, and this came from Anderton's Guitars, and it's just a beautiful guitar. It's the kind of it's got everything you need. It's got humbucker, which you don't normally get. It's got 2 single coils instead of just 1, and it's got a split, so you've got the Telecaster 3 single coils if you want them, or you've got a combination of, you know, humbucker and single coils, or humbucker on its own at the bridge. So it's it's a beautifully made guitar, and for my money, it kind of feels every bit like classic vibe. You know, it's got the exact same quality build, Chinese made but quality build. But Kirsty brought me this because she'd come across my video on YouTube and had the same problem, or recognised the issue that I described in the previous setup video. And there's some notes down here that weren't playing very nicely. And notes up here that were zizzing, and she wasn't happy with the way it was set up. So, and I can hear some of that, so I'm going to take the guitar and do pretty much what I always do with guitars. I'm going to make the action a little bit lower, which it doesn't need to be this. Currently it's about 3mm. I'll measure it so that we can be sure of it, and I'll jot it down on the board as always. Okay, so it's yeah, it's a shade under 3. I said 3 this morning, but it's 2.5. It's 2.5 on the bass side and 2 on the, let's see, just over 2.5 on the bass side and 2 on the treble side. So 2.5 to 3 on the bass side and treble 2. Now what I did notice when we had a look at this first thing this morning, that it didn't have any nip relief in the neck at all. I've got to get my other capo back in the shed. It's in the house somewhere. It's up, in fact it's upstairs. Okay, so just checking the relief in this neck, and it's practically none. I mean, there is the tiniest bit, but it's none to speak of. So straight away we could do with a little bit of relief in this neck. So I'm going to do that thing that's called slacking off, if I can get the right, and I've got the right truss, Allen key, big one on this one. Yeah, we'll slack it off, so we'll counteract the rod, or we'll stop countering the pull of the strings. We'll let the strings pull a bit more of a relief into it. Okay, we've got a bit more already, a little bit more. So that's probably will already have freed up some of the notes a bit down here. So we're going to take the action down by about 1 millimetre on the bass side and at least 0.5 millimetre on the treble side. And then we'll see what we're left with in terms of choking, buzzing frets, if any. Then we'll set the action here at 0.3, which at the moment probably looks about higher than that. It looks maybe 0.5, something like that. I always take the risk of saying this and it turns out to be something completely different and I look like I don't know what I'm saying. But hey, eventually I'll guess it right. What I'm saying, I'll say the A is about 0.5. Yeah, playing 0.5. The E is probably a fraction lower. Yeah. But I'll go down to 0.3 on all of those. In fact, they're a bit higher on the, quite a bit higher on the B and the G. Yeah, so that's up in the area that I wouldn't like it to be. So I'm going to take the action down here, take the action down here, make the neck relief, correct, and then I'm going to just check it for whether the frets are all level in terms of just how they play. I'm not going to get a flat edge and try and do a rocking thing. That's okay if you flatten the neck completely, but we've got a bit of relief in it, and I don't want to confuse it with a straight edge. So what I'll do is I'll just set the when I've set the action the way I want it, I'm just going to see if it plays perfectly. If it plays perfectly, I'm not going to do any leveling at all, and it would just be a simpler, cheaper setup. But if once I've set the action nice and low, it does choke and buzz a bit, then we'll go ahead and do the fret leveling, which will then take care of any unevenness that's present. Okay, so that's the plan as always. I was hoping to get the hangout outside a bit today because it's been raining and I'd like it to be a bit sunny because I want a bit of time outside, just relaxing. One of the things that Kirsty said was that for her liking, these whatsits here, whatever the word is, saddles are way up on their little haunches. They're way too high up. They're almost sort of popped out the top. What I also noticed about them, by the way, is that they are not the standard metric sized things. If I'm not mistaken, these are the smaller imperially jobs, so thankfully I have one of they things. So they are right up on their stilts, and they don't necessarily need to be. They get a little bit less comfortable for palm muting and stuff if you go down in height, but you get an easier action. So I'm just going to have a look at the first one. And there we are, just over 1.5. Amazing how much difference the feel can be just taking it down 1.5 millimeters. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to visually move the other ones down first, and I know that I can sort of see, I can eyeball it, and I'll stop and sort of measure everything and just recheck. So I hope that sounds okay. Sorry if you've had some crappy audio on here recently. I really I've noticed that the processor on board the Sony, I think it's an automatic volume limiting thing when it comes to recording. I'm not quite sure what it's actually called, but I noticed that it would kind of really amplify quiet patches, quiet bits, and you'd end up with it would sound okay when I was talking, but then in between it would sort of pick up and really blow up the amplify the background noise and stuff, so it wasn't great. And I did some sort of ambient outdoor recordings the other day, and it just sounded pretty crap on those, so I thought it's time to get a shot of it. Okay, so it's getting lower. Like I say, we've got fair, comfortable 1.5 there. We're low there, so I'm going to come up a bit. I'm going to go for 1.5 to 1 all the way across, so it's going to be a little bit of fading out as we go over, but 1.5 to 1.6 is too much. You could get really mathematical and work it out to the fraction of the millimetre, but hardly any point. Still over 1.5. Down a bit. I said down, not up. Duh. Down, counterclockwise, down. Okay, yeah, 1.3-ish. 1.6, so down a bit with this one. And then once I've got that down, I'll just visually check the other side against it. With you in a second. The last person who brought me one of these described their feeling about playing it as having to fight against it, and I think like this one, it wasn't a major set of things that were wrong. It was just little bits about the setup like this that and a little bit of uneven fretting that just meant that it wasn't what it should or could or should have been. Okay, that's nearly flat all the way across. I've sort of lost the tuning for a second. Okay. Okay, well, one of the things I talked to Kirsty about this morning was the importance of this stretching thing, how quickly strings will continue, or how long they'll continue to go out of tune for, and I think I'm finding that with these, but that's not kind of critical at this point. When we put some new strings on at the end of this, I'll spend quite some time stretching it out. What I'd like to do is I'm going to take a little break, catch some of this nice sunshine, and I'm going to come back and do this guitar in the evening. And also play it a bit first. So remember what I was saying this morning when we met, see how much of that went out of tune just by a quick stretch, and there's quite a bit of, well, a fair bit of wire on the pegs, posts on the tuners as well, so that's going to carry on bleeding out, and it will go, like I said this morning when we discussed it, that'll carry on doing it for a year or so after you've bought them, if you don't stretch it all out. So take that string to B. well, but I was going to say compared to the G that doesn't change because the G's also bent when I did that. So, but compared to the E, we've gone down again, see? So, like in our discussion this morning, a lot of people think that if something's going out of tune like that, it must be the tuners or something. These are great quality tuners that come with these Fenders and the Squier Classic Vibes, actually, the split post tuner. So it's not the tuners, it's the slack in the string, and it will carry on releasing that slack every time you bend it in a solo or on stage or at home jamming or whatever. Carry on doing that until it's decided it's released all the slack, and that could be months or years down the line if you don't play it that often. But if you think about it, imagine having months and months and months the thing going out of tune on you, and you thinking it's just a pile of crap, and thinking you need to update your tuners and spend another 30-40 quid on some tuners or something. It isn't the case. What I promise you is when you get this back, I'll have taken as much as I can, if not every last bit of stretch out these strings, and I won't let you have it back until the tuning is stable, and that's one of the principal things. Also, we'll make sure that the nut slots are wide enough. It feels to me like they are. Usually very good on these kinds of guitars, particularly that, as well on the classic Vibe Squiers. I think the necks come from the same factory. They look identical actually, just have a different logo on them. But yeah, the nut slots usually cut very well, if not quite as low as or accurately as I'd want them. They're perfectly well done in terms of the width. They're playable for a start. They're quite low and playable, and they're usually good in terms of width. And I didn't hear any pinging or anything. But that's the second culprit in tuning being unstable. People often think the tremolo is the culprit, and that somehow the tremolo does something to the tune. It's not the case at all. The reason why a tremolo on any guitar puts it out of tune is either because you've still got slack in the strings and it's not wrung out yet, or because you've got dodgy slots up here and they're catching and holding the strings and releasing the held bit of tension when you least need it, and in fact when it releases it detunes the string. So you'd be pleased to know that this will play and stay in tune. The other thing that comes, I've mentioned it many times in all my videos, but the other thing that happens that makes people think the guitar is out of tune when in fact it isn't, is the point at which the first fret action is a little bit high, and in my experience it's anything from 0.5 of a mil onwards. Above 0.5 of a millimeter you find that the amount of pressure that you have to use to fret the string drives the string slightly sharp, which kind of is okay if you're pressing them all the same amount, but if actually you're playing open chords, and this is where often people will feel their guitar is just not tunable, they'll be playing an open chord. I can't even do it on this guitar because it's near enough okay, but on an open chord you will hear that these three strings, the fretted three, are in tune with each other because they're all sharp by roughly the same amount, but they're actually sharp compared to the fingered strings. There is something really rattling around down here that I'm not happy with. Something on the bridge. I'll check out. Anyway, yeah, so that's another common reason for people saying their guitars are out of tune or not tunable. And you know, in all seriousness, this is quite good on this one, as much as 0.5, and I'd take it a little bit lower. Not because on this guitar I think I'll be curing any intonation problems. I think on this guitar I will just be making it that little bit easier, lighter to play. But on a guitar where quite often you'll find budget guitars, and sometimes expensive ones like Gibson's even, the action of the first fret can be as anything up to a millimeter sometimes, and that will be pushing those notes way out of pitch compared to the open notes. And I guess for a new, inexperienced guitar player, that just comes across as, I can't get this damn thing in tune. That's all people experience. They don't know that it's actually not a tuning issue, it's an intonation issue, which sort of adds up to the same experience, but they don't know that, and they'll they'll often just declare that something must be wrong with the tuners or something, and often get so frustrated they'll go off in search of a more expensive guitar, which hopefully won't do that. And sometimes they get lucky and the more expensive guitar doesn't, and oftentimes they get an expensive guitar with the same sort of problem and it does the same thing. Okay, I'm going to go out and take some of this fresh air while it's still light, and I'll come back and we'll carry on with this guitar a bit later on with this new simple sound system, which I'm hoping won't require any of the complexity of hooking up the Tascam. I hope that this is just good enough. It's much better than the GoPro. The GoPro onboard microphones are just terrible, notoriously bad. Alright, see you in a little bit. There for you. Tune there, it's quite a lot of slack still in those strings. Keep pulling them and they keep going out of tune. Sorry. Toppy isn't staying in tune very well. So a nice versatile guitar with lots of tonal variations, from the humbucker at the British position on its own, plenty of bite to it, to a single coil, bridge in the single coil position, to combination. the slot on this top one, it's just not tracking the tuner very well. Example, I'm going to tune it up and give you the example of what the strings do when their action's too high. So what you get when the action over the first fret is a little bit too high is you constantly tune up. And you keep playing chords. Up here they sound okay. But down here you keep working on them. Keep tuning and retuning, get your tuner out, try it again and try it again, and you can hear that I'm deliberately pressing these even harder. You can hear they're sharp, right? But I'm still getting it on this guitar. It's still not quite easy to get this in tune. I haven't yet found a stable tuning on this, so I'm going to take care of that. But tone-wise, I really like it. Each time I've played one of these, got some really nice clean Tele sort of sounds and Strat sounds as well. You see? Enough of that. So there we have it. Nice range of tones. Keep making a really loud noise doing that, sorry. Nice range of tones. Deserve to play really well. Very good combination of Telecaster and actually more than just Telecaster and Strat really. It's Telecaster, Strat and some. But yeah, let's get on to it and make it play as good as it can. So what have we got? Well, we've done the action at the bridge, and I've done the neck relief, which is actually still very little, but there is more there than there was. So I guess I'm going to do the action at the nut, and I'm going to work. I'm doing things just slightly differently because before I would have just stuck with my set, but I'm now going to try and I'm trying to use a set combined, Combined set, yeah, I'm making my own setup from a range of things. So basically this comes about because I chucked a whole bunch of them together and couldn't be bothered to sort them out, but I will do at some point. Anyway, so what I'm looking for is a combination of things to get close to a good set for the strings I'm using, but I'm aiming to go a fair bit above, or a couple of thou above each one, so there's a bit more space than less, if you see what I mean. 28, 17 we got, 32, 32, more than 32 really. What do we want? We want something else, don't we? 38? Yeah, so I'm just trying to go oversize on everything, and some of them obviously I don't have a choice on it. At 32 I'll go 36, and then 42, 48. There you go. So everything at the moment has a larger choice selected, which is absolutely fine by me. I'm finding often when I set these, I end up still with grabbing strings, even though I'm using this, an oversized set. So I really am going a bit over each time now. The one that's close to nearest one to spot on is a 17, but it's still over the size given. Okay, so what I tend to do for this bit is I'll drop off the bottom 3 and work on the D outwards, and I'll go for a 0.3. I don't want to go too low on this, but go for a 0.3 in metric. Very close to being there already. There won't be much to do, so I'm going this one outwards, and I'm going to keep this as close to tension, pitch, same thing. Now, by the way, even as I put this in, for a set of 9s, I'm working on a slot that is supposed to be 24, and I'm putting a 28 in, and it's still loose in there. So you can see that the actual slot is probably quite a lot more than I'm using. So, you know, they're always, I guess the point there is they're always cut over. Okay, that's me done. Tiniest little bit needed. And then go to the next one. So it's these 3 are fairly good. This is even a little. See, that's funny. One minute you do it and you think it's hit the slot. The next minute you put it back on and you realise there's a little bit further to go. It's always the way. I'm just going to tweak that fraction more. Since we started and they were aiming to get it precise, so we might as well continue. Yeah, I bailed too early on that. So, nice thing about doing this with the existing strings is that I treat them like what I call sacrificial strings. So it doesn't matter that they get pulled around at this stage. And obviously I don't want to break them because I still need them to work while I'm doing this. Okay, that's good. But sacrificial as in it doesn't matter that they get pulled around a bit. So I did just do before I go, just measure it. And that's pretty close. But it's still playing, so don't wimp out. So it's very nice to meet Kirsty this morning, because it's just one of the things I love about the Reloved Guitars thing, is that most of the work I do it comes via YouTube. And it means that, you know, I've done a video somewhere setting up one of these before, and by the miracle of YouTube and the way the search engine works, somebody who's looking for a problem to that a solution to that same specific problem very often finds what I've done before and gets in touch. Particularly, not always, but particularly if someone's local, it's quite easy for them to come around and meet, and then I can do the work on the guitar. But it's it's really nice to be able to do that, and it feels effortless in that, you know, just by doing what I do and chatting away, I don't have to pretend or, you know, go, what's the word, put on a show or something like that. I can be myself, mistakes and all, and it's enough. Got away flies. It's enough, and there's enough time because I don't edit the things. There's more than enough time for people to assess what they see and decide whether they think I'm a prat or whether they like what I'm talking about. And it means that when the people who come to visit or call up and come around and bring the guitars around, for me it means that they've got a good sense of what I do and how I do it. And in that way, the hard work's done. And God, I never always end up ripping my nails to pieces. The hard work's done, so that, and it also means that I never get to do stuff for people who I shouldn't do stuff for. And it's one of the things in business I've found in lots of other kinds of business. It's one of the greatest tricks in business, or secrets, is to do whatever it takes to. This is a classic trick. It's overcut. There you go. So that's what I often get with this kind of this material. It's not bone. It's tusky plastic, and it can deceive instantly. So it's a fraction too low. So I'm going to have to just repair that a tiny bit with the super glue trick. It's not what I wanted, but there we are. Plays, but it's just a fraction too low for my liking. Yeah, so the hard work's done, and it means that you don't end up with customers that aren't right for you. And as I say, in business, that's one of the most important things, is to set up your business or do your business in such a way that you don't sell to people who really don't want to be buying from you whatever it is that you sell, because it leaves both sides unhappy, actually. And I've worked for many years in London in business consulting, and I could tell straight away when a client was the wrong client for us. And some of my colleagues, I don't think, could sense it quite the way I could. I had a set of flags, if you like, that would go off and there we go, tell me, no, we shouldn't be working with this person, and left to my own devices I would exit and make sure that we didn't work for them. Because if you do work with them, I don't know, some of you might recognise this from your own work. There can often be the kinds of customer who doesn't really want what you do. They want something different, which is perfectly okay with whatever it is they want. It's absolutely perfectly fine that they should want it. It might be they might be looking for a specific low price, or something that fits with a product they have in mind that isn't what you sell exactly, but it's what they think they want. And if you sell to that person, you'll end up, in some cases, for example, if their primary concern is price, and even if you manage to sell this maybe higher price premium thing that you sell, the best you'll get is that they'll buy from you, but they'll buy with the kind of bad feeling that they've paid a higher price than they wanted to pay for it, because what's happened is you may have persuaded them to buy, but actually it hasn't. The fact they bought hasn't changed the basic fact that what they're really interested in is the lowest price, and the result is you've got a customer who doesn't exactly want what you're selling and isn't exactly happy with the fact that they've paid higher price, and that always leaves a bad taste in your mouth and their mouth, because you can usually never get it right for them, and it's sort of understandable, because the moral of the story is that you probably shouldn't have sold to them and they shouldn't have bought from you in the first place. And sometimes as a business you've got to be the person who calls time on that. You're the one. Sometimes it's the customer will be keener to buy than you are to sell, although we often think, oh God, we're all desperate for business and stuff, but sometimes it isn't like that. Sometimes in my experience there comes time when you have to turn somebody down and say, look, no, honestly, this wouldn't work for us, and you wouldn't be satisfied. So the thing about the video is that it takes care of so much of that. That's why I'm sometimes describe it as doing the heavy lifting, if you like. And you know, when somebody's had a chance to watch your video and see what you do without artifice and without kind of posing or acting it out, you know, people are very perceptive, and they can make up their mind whether they like what you do or the way you do it. And like I say, once somebody's made up their mind about that, then you can just sort of get on, and you don't have to worry about being mismatched and all the discomfort that comes with that. So I'm just on this slot here, the G slot, I'm just going to basically put a tiny bit of bone dust in here, just into the, I'm just going to push it into the bottom of the slot, because I want to recut this just slightly. I'm going to say I'm going to cut it slightly higher. I don't want it as low as it was, and it's playable, but it's just a fraction too low, and I don't like that. It's not how I want it. So I'm just going to lift it, raise it up slightly with this little fix, which is very, very clever, and you can do it if you're ever in this situation. Let me just get rid of these air bubbles a minute. There we go. Yeah, so that's why I always use bone, actually. People rave about tusk, but personally I find it a much harder material to work to the tolerances that I like. Let's get rid of that, and let's mop up excess. Yeah, it doesn't, it's softer, and it doesn't behave, it doesn't cut in the predictable way that bone cuts. So yeah, bone every time for me. Okay, so there you can see, very quick, simple repair. All it's done is just filled in the bottom of that slot ever so slightly with this combination of glue and bone dust. And then what that allows me to do is I'll just tune these all up together. It allows me then to cut that one as low as I want it, but no lower. Skip the note. Yeah, so I was very pleased to have kind of chosen to put loads of videos up on YouTube that way, because it doesn't take any more effort to do the video while I'm doing the work, but it really does build up that library of information that people can judge by. And I just think what's great is that once it's there, it's there. It doesn't go anywhere else, and it's also because of the titles of the videos. There's very often, there's a lot of guitar names covered, so that people find their own guitar mentioned. So, good old YouTube. I mean, funny enough, if YouTube didn't do it for free, I wouldn't be able to do it. I suppose I would, but it'd have to be a, you know, factored in business cost. But you know, I'm so glad they do it for free, and the fact that they changed from doing just 10-minute videos. Oh, thanks, door. Okay, we're down at the right distance. I do prefer bone, I can tell you. Let's have a feel. Nicely out of tune. Pinging on that one, I'll just clean that one out with a bit of paper. This bridge is budging. The bridge is budging. We've got some of these little legs here. Must be dangling in fresh air, and I can't tell which ones they are, but I'm going to do a little turn until I can find them, because unless they're touching, then they will tend to rattle, which is really infuriating. I guess you can stop it if you wanted to put some oil or grease on them or something. But all bridges, particularly tunematic ones, not like this, usually the tunematic ones tend to rattle somewhere. I'm just giving everything a little turn just to try and put it all under tension. Yeah, get rid of the rattle. Okay, so that is very, even that little tiny adjustment is much lighter to play, if not stable tuning yet. It's not so much of a worth bothering too much with these strings because they're coming off, but on the final ones, I'm going to make sure we spend time still something loose down here. is, but we'll have to find it. Might even be the strings. Springs? Yeah, you know what? It is. Okay. I wish you could. Maybe you can see this. Let me just. Ooh, without the microphone. Ooh, let's try something radical. Velcro sound. Hey. Ooh, this is amazing. Without the microphone, we can. I can take you for a little journey. Sorry if it makes you feel a bit sick. Kirsten said that she'd set the intonation, and what I noticed here is, look at these springs. They are the screws are fully out. Can you, I don't know if you can see. You should be able to see it. It's got a pretty good close-up. So these, quite a number of these are, well, first of all of the springs are moving freely. Most of them, except that one there. That's compressed. So they're actually different size springs. Actually, there's a mixture here. Okay, Kirsten, just for your info, I bet you've done this by taking all of these off, and I think what's happened is, first of all, there are actually different length springs here, and what you need is, the intonation tends to go in patterns of 2 groups of 3, and they step backwards, a bit like you've got in this pattern here. So you'd have longer spring, shorter, very short, longer spring, shorter, very short, and they tend to not do that. They tend to have same length, very short. So the very short spring needs to go here, as you've got it, and here. And then that would be a longer one and fill up the gap. Okay. And the fact is, if this one is still too short, then the chances are what happens is the spring can move, which gives you some of this rattle, and on the ones like this one, what's actually happened is the whole screw is loose, which is rattling. So when we come to change it over, I'm going to take all of those off. I'll look for some other springs if necessary, have them standing by, and then we'll just redo this, set the intonation, and if they end up with anything rattling loose, I'll change them out for slightly longer ones so that they keep the thing under pressure for a start, so we don't end up with, I mean, look, this one is practically coming out. So you know, we don't want that to happen, and we don't want the screw or the spring to rattle. So that's interesting. So there you go. There's just a first observation. I'm going to plug this back in and you can look at the ceiling. There we are. Ooh. All right, back on track. Okay, so if I can just ignore the buzzing things. Question for me with this guitar now is, with the action set the way I want it down there, and with the action set at this end the way I want it, and with the neck relief as I've chosen it, forget the tuning for a minute, and trying to ignore the buzzing from here because it's quite a distracting feature, so I'm just going to tape these off for a minute. It's still bloody buzzing against those things, against the paper now, making even a louder noise. So I'm just trying to shut that up. The question is, in and of themselves, do all these notes, do they play? Still bending, buzzing from down here, it's just mad. I'm trying to shut it up. Shut up. Right, I'm holding it now with my finger. and I'll hold the next one. And the next one. Okay, so just the reason I was doing that is I wanted to find out how the frets were generally on this guitar. So at the action I've set, they are mostly okay, which is actually quite unusual, except there is some congestion down on this side of the frets. Now without flattening the neck and putting a rocker on, I can't show you, but what I tend to do is I tend to either assume, well, I assume that if it doesn't play cleanly the way I want it, then I know there is some unevenness, so I don't have to get the checker out. We are on a bit over 1.5 millimeters, so it should play comfortably. Actually, you know, it's not too bad. You know what? I think we can get away without leveling the frets on this, which is kind of good for you because that cuts down the price, makes it easier, quicker, cuts down the price as well. So yeah, I'm going to go on that basis, and what I'm also going to do is just slightly widenly, just sandpaper a little bit in that G slot there, just so we don't have any pinging at all. And then I'm going to take a break for a second, and I'm going to come back and basically restring this. Restring. Okay, this one's the one. Yeah, so I'm going to restring. Sorry, I'm going to restring and really concentrate on getting that bridge right. So I think, given everything, we should be all right. It should sound pretty, should play pretty well. Hopefully, without doing needing to do a fret level, which is a nice change. Let's try this G in there. Okay, right, let me come back to you in a sec and then we'll get ready to restring. Okay, so having just taken off, and you can probably see there, I've taken off all the bridge saddle bits, and I'm just going to polish, yes, clean up the dust in there. And I have to apologise because I assumed, I know that Kirsty had done some intonation setting, and I kind of assumed that if the springs were in the wrong place you must have taken them off and moved them or whatever, but maybe that isn't the case, and it may, for all I know, you may have got it exactly like that from Anderton's when you got it. So I'm just going to quickly clean off the fingerboard, but it's nice maple, good thick lacquer, so there's not much to clean at all. So those springs they were out of position for a start, so I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this, but there are two very short ones, and then the rest are the same size. All the thingies here are the same size. Bolts, things, nuts, bolts, yeah, bolts. And I've probably forgotten which of these went where. Now these will be different sizes as well. There'll be tall ones and short ones. Although those actually sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. These at this point in time, these appear to be. No, there's a short one, and there's a short one. So there's two short ones, short stilts, if you know what I mean. If that makes any sense. So I'm going to reset them all once I put it back on. But if you're right and those were intonated correctly, then we've got a problem in that these are too short, these screws. So I'm just going to go and dig out some other screws. Sorry, not screws, springs. Got a pile of springs here. I'm just going to bring them out in case we need to put on a larger one. I don't know if any of these are appropriate for this. Some of them will be. They're not exactly the same, but what the issue here is that if they're too small, then what they won't do is they just will not hold the bolt thing, the little screw bolt, under tension, and you just get that buzzing noise which would drive me mad, and actually may well have contributed to something about what wasn't playing well for you with this guitar. So I'm just sorting out some alternatives. Now, whereas the ones on your guitar are all shaped like a little sort of cylinder, the ones I've got are shaped like little cones. They come from the same function on different guitars, but mostly they're little cone-shaped things. So I'm just going to put them. I won't necessarily use them. I'll just have them standing by as optional replacements. Well, actually, having said that, I do have a couple of straight ones. No, they're still cone-shaped. Right, I've just got them standing by in case we need to put them on. Because the point is, if these here presume a saddle that's pulled quite a long way back. So if I start with that, so I'll start with the first one, which needs a long one, and we push that through. We put the long thingy on. Again, I may get these in a different order from what I had it before, but it just means, all it means is I have to reset the action using the little Allen key, which isn't too big a hassle. Okay, so I would really like this to go on. It's not going, so let's just have a look why. It will go. That's working. It's just not in the right position then. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that the short springs and the short stilts are in the right place, which they weren't. In fact, I took a photograph of it, but what happened when the camera was off, as I was taking down the... See, I think we're going to... I'm not going to take a risk. I'm going to replace these two short ones with two replacements that are longer, because I don't want to have it flapping around. It's pointless. Yeah, as I took when I took off the strings, I was doing strings, one of these was so far out it flipped off and flipped forward. There's no harm, it's just basically the screw was so undone that it no longer held onto the little saddle bit, so just dropped it and it jumped forward. But it concerns me that it's that far out. It shouldn't be, if it's intonated right. If that's the case, then it would be actually the bridge saddle the bridge itself is in the wrong place. But anyway, I've now replaced on the short where the short spring was, I've replaced it with a slightly longer one, which means the thing is now under tension straight away. There's no point where it's rattling free. So I'm going to go two more full length screws from the original set, and then another replacement one, just to make sure that that final saddle doesn't end up rattling free. Not a problem really with this. I'll obviously include the original one if you want to just keep hold of it, but just making sure it doesn't buzz, because there's nothing worse than having a nice guitar that has this irritating buzz, and often I get it with tunematic bridges, and sometimes I have to sort of pack them out with little bits of rubber or something. Some people use glue even to to stop the bits of the bridge saddles buzzing away. They just seem to like to do it. It's the way they're built. Okay, so I'm going to sort of position these in a staggered set of two groups of 3, and then I'll kind of come back to the intonation as the final thing, and it will give me a sense of whether your setting was way off or not. Interesting with the intonation thing, you know, I've had some people being very critical, a person being quite critical of using either a Korg tuner, as I have recently used, or even a tuner app on my phone, which I will use today. And I think the point I've made in the last video is that actually you can use your ear if you've got a good enough ear. You know, a oscilloscope is a very, very precise piece of equipment, and it's a luxury if you've got one, and it'll do the job perfectly, but you can do it pretty well even with your ears, or if not your ears, then with a tuner app. Okay, so let's just review. I think we're going to get away with resetting this. We've put some relief into the neck, which we didn't have before, which has cleared some of the claggy frets at this end. We're going to get rid of the loose bits down here so they don't buzz anymore. I've cut the nut slots nice and low, so it's a really low playing action at the nut end. And actually beyond that, even with the action we chose, which was 1.5mm down here and 1 on the treble side, it felt very playable. There wasn't any major issues, and if it's from the same school as the classic vibes, I kind of wouldn't expect there to be too much of a problem actually. I can never remember which is which on these. Okay, let's start with the blue things. Yeah, so I think we'll get a really nice playing action out of it without needing to fret level, and then we'll be done. In fact, I can drop you a line by text and you can pick up sooner than Monday, which is cool. I'll be here all day tomorrow. A friend's coming up, and we're going to be doing guitar things in shed anyway. Now, unless I've got this completely wrong in my assessment of the condition of the frets, but I don't think I have. It seemed to play pretty well. So I'm just going to push all the strings through first and have them sitting there, and then I'll do them from the front. I have to say I'm a convert to the what do you call them? These rotor sound strings. To be honest, I can't really tell that much difference between them and the Ernie balls, and they just score for me in that they provide a spare top E, and the only string I ever break in doing a setup is the top E, and that's because I'm doing a lot of stretching right at the end of the game. And for me, to break a top E and then have it cost me a complete set because I don't carry loads of singles is an absolute pain, it really is. So here I get my wound D plus 2 top E's, and that gives me a 1 to put away. I've got a couple hanging up there already somewhere for spares, which is brilliant. So what did I say? This is a wound D, wasn't it? Yep. All D's are wound. Okay. Come on, push through. Yeah, I've had to make a bit of a tough decision. I was going to, some of you may have heard, Claire and I are going on our honeymoon in a couple of weeks' time, and she was trying to persuade me to take the Antoria arch top with us in its case. So, you know, well, there's no other way of getting it there. And I had a look at some of the luggage options, and the only way to get it there would be to pay for a separate case, or to reduce our baggage load. In other words, have her take one guitar. Where's the spares going? Oh, I should be putting them in one place. I'm sure I did. No, I can't remember. Right, so come on, have one place. There they are. That's where I put them. I knew it was a place. Yeah, so I don't think we can get both of our stuff into one 30-kilo case, giving us a spare case, if you like, to put the guitar in. So I just think that's a bit too much of a hassle. And instead, what I will take is I'll take my oak caster, which breaks down really nicely to a small size, fits in my suitcase perfectly. And I can take a little, I can take a zoom pedal with rechargeable batteries for some fun headphone playing. Okay, so we're going to restring with these nines, these Rotosound nines, and for a split post tuner like this, it depends how much you want to put on. I tend to go about 2 inches over past the mark and give myself enough room to lock it in place and then start the turn and keeping it under pressure. And again, if we can get as little as possible material around the peg, it kind of makes us tuning as stable as it can be, or will help us keep a stable tuning. So that was 2 inches, and it may even be a little bit more than I'd want normally, but let's have a look. Yeah, probably a bit more than I'd want, but I'll reduce on the next one. So let's just try 1 inch further, a good chunky inch, there we go. And you know, if you have split posts, I have them on some guitars, but not on a guitar I play massively regularly. So if you have them on a guitar you play regularly, it might be worth just trialing how little you can get away with to get a good solid bite so it doesn't slip. I mean, the nice thing about the split post tuning is that because it cranks the string at a right angle, there's very little that can undo. It's a very good locking mechanism. The only danger is just watch out as you're lining up, make sure you're lining up to the right post just before you cut. There's enough times where I've lined it up to the wrong post, cut it, and then realised it's now too short for the post I actually have to use it on, which is a right old pain. And it's just a little lapse of concentration. But yeah, an inch or sort of a first fret's worth seems to be a good sort of distance extra to give you plenty of grip. Maybe a tiny bit more on the thin strings because they have more of a capacity to slip anywhere they are than the thicker strings, funnily enough. But you always have to put them under some load to get them to bite and stay. But yeah, it looks a fairly good limited amount of material string going around these posts, which is the way we want it. Okay, so yeah, I'll be taking my oak caster on our honeymoon, and who knows, I might even play it on a beach and record it if I've got the courage. I'm usually a bit too self-conscious and scared to do it, but it's funny since I've stood up and played in front of people at gigs, but somehow it's quite nice when you're with a bunch of other people. You don't feel quite so exposed, or I don't know, I feel like I'm not having to carry everything myself, but we shall see. Anyway, it'd be really nice to have taken my own homemade guitar on my travels with me, and that guitar has also been with me on business trips in the past as well, so it's got some form. Okay, so strunged, and I'm going to go backwards to the action setting. Normally I wouldn't have to do this step, but obviously since having rearranged these, the individual saddles, then obviously I'm going to have to change, going to need to adjust the action again. So I'm getting too high right now, down on this one. and too low. So I tend to do this, get the first one and then do the rest visually in relation, and then double back and measure them. So it's still a bit low. As I mentioned earlier on to Kirsten, I'm thinking of Kirsty, my son's girlfriend. As I mentioned earlier on to Kirsten, I'll set it really low. You can go obviously upwards if you want to tweak each of these saddles a little bit in the clockwise department, and then it'll raise the saddle slightly higher. And if you're going to do it, just keep a record of how many turns or what parts of a turn you do, and do it to all of them the same. Okay, we're just on 1.5 there, so I'm just going to put a bit of tension in all of these for a minute. Don't know what that is, I'm guessing a bit. Yeah, these strings here look like they've only got about one turn on them, which is just about right actually. The E strung's got more, but I'll get all the slack out of it. Right, that's just for starters, so I can have this under tension while I'm just rearranging the action here. So as I said before, it's really important when you do this, when you adjust the action, make sure that each of the stilts, the little grub screws, is pressed against the body of the guitar, the base plate, and that way you'll ensure that one or other of them won't just sort of rattle around, because they do tend to do that if one of them's left dangling, and quite often the saddle can just hang off one and not the other, and then you will get that sort of rattling noise. So I'm just trying to make sure that everything that could rattle won't. Okay, let's have a quick gander. So it's a case of just sort of pushing it until it's under a little taut. Now, just going to check the heights over here now. So we've gone over here, so I'm going to take this down again, counterclockwise, quarter of a whole turn, counterclockwise, quarter of a whole turn, and measure it. 1.6. Sort of about 10-degree turn, 10-degree turn. Yeah, still just over 1.5. So I'm going to keep at it to get it as accurate as I can, or as close to where I intended to go, if possible. Okay. 1.5. Next one. 1.5. Next one. Do it low, so break that one up a fraction, half a turn, half a turn, yeah, a little bit high, wow, one, that needs to go up a bit. Okay, 1.3-ish. On the B string, we're down on 1, so a tiny fraction up on there. Not much at all. Yep, and then on the high E, we're just under 1, so minuscule tweak there. And we should be okay. Now, before I go into more tuning, what I'm going to do is start the stretching process, which I know Kirsty you've seen before, but for those who haven't, I recommend as you do this quite rough, squeezy process where you're squeezing all the string, but you're squeezing it against your own thumbs and forefingers, so rather than yanking it against the saddle or the nut. And then also try and stretch anything that's on this side as well of the nut. So this is a really good process for physically wringing out all of that slack. Now, remember I said earlier on that unreleased slack is your biggest tuning enemy. Contrary to what most people think, it's not the tuners, and it's nothing else about the guitar. It's just the unreleased slack. And there will be, I picked up a guitar yesterday, a Jackson Dinky from Cy in Plymouth. And Cy's had that guitar over a year and played it a few times, but not that much. But even though it's been sitting in his house for over a year from new, I still pulled out tons of unreleased slack, and immediately it went out of tune. Now, you know, if somebody's getting that out of a box and they're going to start playing, bend a few notes and then it goes out of tune, they're going to feel pretty disappointed, and they will suspect that there's something wrong with the guitar and may even be tempted to send it back. See how much we've had to take. Something down here still buzzing. We'll get back to you. Right, so I've retuned it and it's going out of tune already, which is perfectly fine. That's what we expect. But like I said, the amazing thing is how long that stretch can lie dormant in your strings, and it will only basically come out when you put the string under mega mechanical pressure, i.e. when you're doing this to it, as I am now, or in the most common case, when you're actually playing it and when you least want that stretch to release, and it comes out then. And you know, you'll come out of a guitar solo and you'll be out of tune when you rejoin the verse or whatever. And it's a horrible thing to have to quickly retune well, on the fly. You lose your kind of concentration or your flow, and the band has to sort of get along without you for a bit. Or your roadie comes on and chucks you another guitar quickly, and your guy on the mixing desk has to drop your channel before you hear all the cracking and popping of jack plugs and stuff. I'm conscious of that top E. It seems to be losing a lot, but it can't be slipping because it can't be coming out of the split tuner. So I don't know what's happening there. If it doesn't improve, I will change it out for another one, because I don't know. Like I say, it can't really be moving around that post, because it's locked in with a little 90-degree turn. And if it's going to come out, it's just going to go pop and fly off. Anyway. Well, look, I hope this audio on this version has been okay. I can kick myself for only really having done an audio test using this Sony yesterday. I kind of had assumed that it needed the sort of external audio in like the GoPro did, and so I just hooked it up to the Tascam and hoped for the best. Just got on with it, but really interesting. What is going on with that one? So you can see I've done 3 lots of stretches. Ooh, wow. Easy to play. Something is loose in here. Right, so that's 3 stretches, okay, and I'm going to do one more just for good luck, and then once I've done that I'm going to do some bends and some other stretches, and then I'll be confident that it's going to stay in tune. And it's a little hint to anyone who's doing up and selling guitars in a similar fashion to what I do sometimes. If you concentrate on this part, then the guitar that somebody gets out of the box that you've just sent them will play beautifully and stay in tune. Can you think of a worst way of introducing your guitar than having it go out of tune within seconds of getting it out of the box and playing it? You know, and what would it cost you 20 minutes at this end to get it right? So if you want to get it right, I recommend you do this bit. Right, we're almost there. What the hell? It's got the... Can you hear that? It's something down this end that's insisting on buzzing. Blimey. Weird. Confused by that last thing. Stop your buzzing. Do you know, I'm wondering about this tuner. Right, let me do some more stretchings. What I will do is do a little bit of widening with some sandpaper in the slots, which I like to do anyway, once I've stretched and bent everything to hell and back. I'll bring this up here because I will need that shortly anyway. Okay. Where's the hole? rest of the hole. Yeah, so like I said, I've got to tune it, get it tuned, get it stable, and then we'll do the intonation on it. And make sure that that's right. And hopefully we can make sure while we're doing that nothing else buzzes down that bridge end, because it's somewhat annoying. Sure about that top E yet, and whether it's stable or whether it's really sticking in that slot. But anyway, let's just get a look at the, I don't want photos, let's get a look at the intonation. For the neck that we've got on this guitar, then the fretted 12th will be the same as the pinged harmonic at the 12th. We use the tuner to tell us. It's not an exact science because and this is where the argument about having a perfect oscilloscope, an expensive scientific laboratory piece of equipment, given that you fret the note completely differently every time you fret it, with more or less pressure, makes them kind of meaningless, makes a mockery of having a precision tuner. Because actually by default you're never doing the same thing twice. Several. It's pretty much on. they're a bit sharp. Okay, so the top three are a little bit out, and if they're sharp it means the string length is a little bit too short for the neck, so we need to pull them back a little bit, and to do that we'll go clockwise with the screw and watch the saddle coming back, and once I've pulled the E back I'm going to then pull the other two back sort of in a stepped arrangement to that, and they should sort of come back together. Change the pitch because we've moved the bridge. Sharp, gone too high. Did you spot that? Not really important. That important. So back a little bit further. Okay, so that's good. All of them back a little bit further using clockwise turns. Again, they'll all go up in pitch slightly, so nearly there. I'll pull the G back a little bit further and the B back a tiny bit. Now these are under quite strong pressure now, so there's no chance of the things buzzing. That's how much the pinging at the nut is getting in the way, by the way. Far off. Okay, two groups of three looks about where it should be. Now what I'm going to do off camera, I'm just going to do a bit of sandpapering on the nut slot, and then once that's done I'll bring it back in, plug it back in and play it a bit more and tune it up and stretch out any last tiny bits. That's pretty much done, and I think it will playing okay without needing to worry about any fret leveling, which is very good. So see you in a second. Hold on. Okay, I'm just going to do the last little bit on here, which is to add the old graphite to each slot, and then I'll go for a sort of final stretch out, and yeah, final stretch out and tuning and so on, and then a bit of a play, and see how I get on with it over the next couple of hours. say, I don't like this tusky nut stuff that they use, the Fenders, Squires and Fenders. Still got a tiny bit of pinging going on that G, so I'm just going to run a bit more of the old sandy paper through it. It's really the sides that have to kind of come down a bit. It's I'm just trying to rub it against the sides more than anything. Don't worry about if you're doing this. Spill as much as you can and then you can blow it away with your compressed air afterwards. Did a bit of sandpapering in that toppy as well. See if I can make sure that it's not sticking anywhere there as well. For some reason that E tuner doesn't feel quite up to it. Sorry about this noise. Ready? Yeah, it feels a bit substandard, like it's I don't know, like it's turning and not really biting. It's not as direct as I'd like it to be. So I don't know. It's not, sometimes you get that, but it's not filling me with total confidence at the moment. Now since I've slacked them off, I'm just going to give them a sort of sharp tug again, just to pull any residual slack out of the game. Hopefully I don't break them in doing this. Hello. I'm on camera.
He's just slipped over.
Oh.
You didn't, the bike's alright. It's not starting now.
I'll be out now.
I told him that he was flooding because he kept trying it with the choke on.
Okay, I'll be out now.
He's left it for a bit.
Yeah.
And just tried it again, and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's it for now. See you later. Go and sort out some biking things. Here's an interesting thing. After playing this for half an hour or so, this top E string is just not behaving. Everything else is stable. tune. Now I was slightly not entirely happy with how I wound it on in the first place, but theoretically if it's coming off a little bit each time it's going to ping off, but it hasn't. These other strings staying in tune. Okay, that's it, I'm binning it. Don't ask me why. Remember I said the good thing about these rotor sound strings is they come with an extra E? Well, that's sort of lucky because this little fella is retiring, and I'm just going to make the most of my spare E string that came with one of my spare E strings that came with this set, and we're going to do it again. There we are. I can't put my finger on what that is. I don't think it's anything to do with the actual tuner itself. I don't think it's to do with the nut, because I've taken care to get that right. It is something about this string. Let me do if I can actually get it through. Yeah, something about the string, or the way it was fitted, that wasn't happy. So it's not often I do this standing up, but I'm going to put, for argument's sake, I'm going to put a little bit more length on to ensure that we get a good bite, and that there's no chance of it coming undone. So I'm straight away putting it under pressure with a nice angle, and I can't reach my thingy, my string winder at the moment, but I'm just going to go from there and wind it on by hand as needs must, and then I'll take a while to stretch this one out, but I just have a feeling that this is going to behave better, and I'll probably never know why, but that one was just, of all the strings, that one was still coming out of tune. I mean, theoretically it might be slipping a fraction each time, but because of the way it's angled over to lock it into place, I can't see how it would do that without actually just coming off the post. It's not really possible. It's possible to move with a different, the usual kinds of posts, but not with these split ones, because you put the string right down in the middle and wind the thing on. But anyway, so here we have the new string auditioning. I bet you this won't take even half as long to get in to stay. Almost there. There you go. Sorted. There you go. Change the string. Don't accept it. If it's not right, bin it. Okay. So, bar a small interruption for a stepson who came off his bike outside while parking it or riding it up a difficult bit of curb. Just kind of goes to show that they can get their CBTs, their basic test done, and be allowed out on the road, but that does not equal or equate to any kind of experience of how to handle the bike. So try to get him to come out and try riding it and overcome that particular obstacle. He's not in the mood right now, but I'm sure he will do. You know, we need to persist. Anyway, there we go. Fender Modern Player Telecaster, good enough condition underneath to set a nice action. The initial problems with this were that the relief in the neck was back bow, which was choking out some of these strings here, so that was not good. So I set the relief correctly with a little bit of tiny bit of relief. People say how much. I put a little bit, you know, it's a suck it and see, and the truth is if you're going to do this you can do as much or as little as you want and see what happens. You can, if you want to look at the manufacturer's recommended specifications, please by all means do, and take that as your start point. But if you want to learn about it, vary from that, go away from it in one direction, go away from it in another direction, so that you know what it feels like when you change those settings, as opposed to just aiming for the one thing that the manufacturer tells you. Often the manufacturer tells you something like 0.5 millimeter over here, and I say if you want a nice easy to play guitar that doesn't fight you, don't go for 0.5 millimeter, go for a 0.3. So yeah, so I basically set the action down here. One of the things that this was doing, as you remember, was had loads of rattling bits down here, and it was because the springs were too loose, and in fact one of these screws came out. Okay, thanks, sweetie. One of the springs came out, and so I've tightened it all back up, re-intonated it, and actually replaced out two of the springs so that they're actually doing some work instead of the little ones that came with it were really too small in my book, miniature little things. Anyway, done that, set the playing action here, set the neck relief right, set the playing action over here very light, and changed out the strings, stretched all the as much of this one's still got a bit of stretch to go. I mean, that was a bit cheeky, only doing it for a second, but the point being is all of the strings but this one are completely stretched through and through, and stable, so this will play nice. So I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry it was a bit round the houses, but that's how it goes in Reloved Guitars. So thank you for watching. See you again soon with another guitar.